presents the princess and the pea. Clap and shout hooray!
Hooray!
Once upon a time, there was a beautiful queen, and she had a son who was her prince. Ladies and gentlemen, the queen and her son, the prince. Now, this prince wanted his own kingdom. The prince said, I want my own kingdom.
I want my own kingdom.
The queen said, you are joking.
You are joking.
His mother insisted that he could not rule until he found a true princess with whom he could rule. His mother insisted she has to be a real princess.
There has to be a real princess.
The prince says, of course.
Of course.
And so the prince went out on his trusty steed, his horse, and galloped out into the wide world to find a princess. The first castle that he arrived at was Princess Cinderella's castle. He met Princess Cinderella in the throne room. The prince bowed to the princess, and the princess curtsied. The prince said, an honor to meet you.
Honor to meet you.
The princess said, would you like to see some of my books?
Would you like to see some of my book?
She was known throughout the kingdom as the best reader ever. Well, what he didn't know was that she also liked to tell bad jokes, and she laughed like a donkey. The prince told a joke. The prince said, how do you make a handkerchief dance?
I make a handkerchief trick.
And then the prince says, you put a little boogie in it. And the princess started to laugh, but she sounded like a donkey. The prince said, oh. And the princess said, I have to be going now. And the prince gave her a bow and said, yes, your majesty.
Yes, your majesty.
Thanks anyway.
Yeah.
Well, the next castle that he rode away to was Princess Belle's. Princess Belle was known throughout the land as the best archer ever. She could beat anyone with her bow and arrow. She shot her bow and arrow, and the prince was very impressed. The prince said, wow,
Wow.
good shot.
Good shot.
The princess said, yes, I know.
Yes, I know.
She said, I could teach you if you like.
I can teach you if you like.
But when the prince took one more step toward her, she became scared and began screaming and hiding. She ran away and was never seen that day again. The prince said, oh, okay, thanks anyway.
Thanks anyway.
And the prince rode out to Princess Tiana's castle. The princess was known throughout the kingdom as a very polite princess. When the prince arrived and gave her a bow, she curtsied. And then she said, won't you please have a seat?
Would you please have a seat?
And the prince said, oh, why thank you.
Oh, I thank you.
The prince thought to himself, she is very polite.
She is very polite.
Then the princess went to walk over to see him, but she fell down. She was very clumsy. When the prince went to help her up, The prince said, ah! And the princess said, oh, I'm terribly sorry.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
She stood up and said, please excuse me.
Please excuse me.
She began to walk back to her room, but fell again.
Ow!
She said, and she was gone. Well, the prince said, all right, well, be careful.
Be careful. Okay.
And then he was off to find Princess Hope. He went to Princess Hope's castle. She was known throughout the land as the most graceful of all princesses. When she walked, when she spoke beautifully and slowly. The prince took a bow, and the princess showed a beautiful slow curtsy. Then he realized when she went to say something, she began to laugh.
How are you doing?
The prince said, I was wondering if you would like to go for a walk.
I was wondering if I was going to walk.
But the princess just laughed some more. In fact, the princess laughed so hard that she had to sit down. And she began fanning herself. She couldn't stop laughing. The prince said, oh, well, I think I have to go now.
I think I have to go now.
And the princess tried to say goodbye, but all she could do was laugh. And so she laughed all the way back to her room. The prince was disappointed and rode his horse back to his own castle, where he saw the queen. The prince went to his room to rest after his long journey, and the queen felt sorry for her son. She grabbed up a bag of gold and went out beyond the village to find a gift to cheer him up. On the way, by the stone fence, she met a young boy. Jack walked over to the fence with her. But Jack looked so upset. The queen said, why so sad?
That is so sad.
Jack said, my mother is furious.
My mother is furious.
I traded our cow for some magic beans.
We traded our cow for some magic beans.
And now we have no food.
And now we have no food.
The queen said, what a poor choice.
What a poor choice.
Jack said, the man who sold them to me was very convincing.
The man who sold them to me was very convincing.
The queen was curious. She asked to see the beans. The youngster bucked the beans and they began to sparkle.
Yes.
That's a cute idea. The queen knew magic beans when she saw them, and she said, I'll give you a whole bag of gold for those beans.
I give you a whole bag of gold.
Jack said, that's wonderful.
That's wonderful.
We'll eat for months.
We'll eat for months.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And off the youngster ran with the gold, and the queen took the beans back home to her beloved son. She went to the throne room and presented her son, the prince, with the magic beans. She said, plant these in a pot and they will grow.
Plant these in a pot, they will grow.
So the prince planted the beans in a pot beside his bed. And then sat on his bed and began to dream of his new kingdom. As he sat, a plant began to grow. The prince thought to himself, when I find a princess,
When I find a princess,
and I have my own kingdom,
and I have my own kingdom,
I think I will grow peas.
I think I will grow peas.
The pea said, that's cool.
That's cool.
And the prince said, what? Who said that?
What? Who said that?
Well, the pea said, me, I did. The prince saw that the pot now had a little pea plant in the pot. The pea said, "Growing peas is cool."
Growing peas is cool.
The prince said, "What?"
What?
And then the pea looked and said, "Whoa, how did you grow so fast?"
Whoa, how do you grow so fast?
The pea said, "I'm magic."
I'm magic.
And then the pea said, "Oh, and your princess will find you." Your princess will find you.
Your princess will find you.
The prince said, "She will when?"
She will win.
The pea said, "Soon."
Soon.
The prince didn't have to wait long, for that night a terrible storm broke. Lightning flashed and rain jumped as though it came from a pitcher, and thunder rattled the house with such a boom that the pea shook in his pot. He said, "Make it stop!" But during the storm, a young girl ran through the pouring rain and knocked on the castle door. The prince was curious to see who was at the door, but instead, the prince went to the kitchen to get the frightened pea plant a glass of water. While the prince was gone, the pea plant hopped from the prince's room to the guest room, which had no windows. And the queen went to the door. And the queen answered the door, and there stood a young girl. The young girl said, "Hello, I'm wet and cold."
Hello, I'm wet and cold.
She asked, "May I please come in?"
May I please come in?
The queen said, "Who are you?"
Who are you?
Princess Penelope said, "I'm a princess."
I'm a princess.
But the queen said, "Oh, you don't look like a princess, but all right."
Oh, you don't look like a princess.
But all right. And Princess Penelope said, "Thank you."
Thank you.
And the queen said, "You're welcome."
You're welcome.
The queen took the girl to the throne room and took a good look at the princess. The princess looked like something the pond had spit out. Her hair dripped water, her clothes were soaking wet, and water swished from her shoes. The queen asked again, "So you're a princess?"
So you are a princess?
And Princess Penelope said, "Of course."
Of course.
The queen said, "We'll see.
We'll see.
Do stay."
You stay.
The princess went to the bathroom to get ready for bed. While she was gone, the queen went into the guest room and happened to see the pea plant hiding in the corner. The queen said, "What? How did you grow so fast?"
What? How do you grow so fast?
The pea said, "Magic."
Magic.
The queen said, "You talk." She said, "You talk."
You talk.
The pea said, "Like I said, magic."
Like I said, magic.
The queen had an idea. She walked over to the plant and the queen plucked a pea off of the plant. The pea said, "Ouch!"
Ouch.
And the queen said, "Shh." Then she said, the queen set the single pea on a mattress and quickly piled many other mattresses on top. She finished before the girl could see what she was doing. Then the girl walked into the room and the queen said, "Here's your bed."
Here's your bed.
Princess Penelope thought that was a very large bed, but said, "Thank you."
Thank you.
The girl climbed into the bed and the queen left for bed, pulling the door shut behind her. The pea plant was locked in the room with the girl. Well, the pea said, "Hey, girl!" The princess looked around and said, "Who's there?"
Who's there?
The pea said, "Me."
Me.
Princess Penelope said, "A talking plant?"
A talking plant?
The pea said, "Magic."
Magic.
Princess Penelope said, "Wow."
Wow.
Naturally, the princess was surprised. The pea asked, "Do you want to be queen?"
Who wants to be queen?
Princess Penelope said, "Oh, yes."
Oh, yes.
Well, the pea, who loved to talk, kept the girl up all night with stories and advice. By morning, the poor girl looked simply awful. She was exhausted. And then she went to the throne room where the queen went to her throne, and the prince sat beside her. The princess sat on the other throne, and the queen asked the princess, "How did you sleep, my dear?"
How do you sleep, my dear?
The princess said, "Oh, very badly."
Oh, really badly.
The queen said, "Oh." The princess said, "I'm sorry, but I could not sleep.
I'm sorry that I couldn't sleep.
Something bothered me all night."
Something bothered me all night.
And then she said, "I think it was a pea." The queen was delighted to hear this. She believed that only a real princess could steal a single pea under all those mattresses. So she told the prince that he was allowed to marry her. But the prince had to make sure that she was the right girl for him. So the prince walked over to the princess and asked, "Do you want to be my princess?"
Do you want to be my princess?
And the princess said, "Yes."
Yes.
And the prince said, "Well, do you laugh like a donkey?"
Well, do you laugh like a donkey?
The princess said, "No."
No.
He said, "Are you always scared?"
Are you always scared?
The princess said, "No."
No.
He said, "Are you very clumsy?"
Are you very clumsy?
The princess said, "No."
No.
And the prince said, "I guess you don't laugh all the time either."
I guess you don't laugh a lot of time either.
And the princess said, "No, I don't."
No, I don't.
So the prince asked, "Will you help me run the kingdom in a fair and kind way?"
You help me run the fair in a kind way?
And the princess said, "Yes."
Yes.
And the prince asked the last and most important question, "Will you help me weed Pea's garden?"
Will you help me please Pea's garden?
And princess said, "Of course."
Of course.
And so the prince married the princess. Of course, the pea plant got to stand right beside the prince because the pea plant was the guest of honor. And all of the princesses from the other kingdoms arrived saying, "We love a good ball."
We love a good ball.
The princess got ready for the wedding. And the queen herself married the prince and the princess by saying, "May you live happily ever after."
May you live happy ever after.
And then the pea plant invited his friend Jack to the royal reception. Jack arrived at the wedding and said to the pea plant, "Hey, you really are magic."
Hey, you really are magic.
And the pea plant said, "Of course I am."
Oh, of course I am.
Well, the queen clapped her hands, and the ball began, and everyone danced and laughed and ate to their heart's content. And they did live happily ever after. The end. Ladies and gentlemen, the stars of our show. Everybody, nice work. Go and give somebody a hug. You did a great job.
Oh, girl, you did great.
Look how proud
It didn't come off, did it? All right.